Once upon a time, in a faraway land, there was a precocious little boy who loved his family and friends, but could never truly ignore his not-so-secret passion. And so, as fate dictated, there was always a space, or 12, in his heart, just for his games. And so here we are, at the end of Season 3, with Benji's Top 100 Games of All Time. 75. Dice Throne is what happens if you blend the set collection elements of poker with dice rolling and competitive dueling. The production, as you can see, is delish, and the push your luck with re-rolling dice is sure to get you giddy and frustrated in equal measure. Now please just give me one ultimate. 74. The Castles of Burgundy, the dice game. It makes too much sense to distill the Fortress of Burgundy into a roll and write, and this works oh so much better than the card game in high mumble opinion. And I accept my hex fetish can cloud my judgment, but there's a real richness to the strategy on offer, and it's so easy to get up and running. 73. Folklore, the Affliction. This pseudo-RPG dungeon crawler that opines, why go D20 when you can go D100, is nothing if not immersive. I love the way it zooms its narrative into what you see on the board during skirmishes and back out again when you're travelling. This will definitely scratch that itch for the avid role players out there. 72. Ethnos. Teaches you the rudiments of area control, hand management and set collection all in one tidy set of rules. Oh, and you got a bunch of factions to mix things up with as well. This is a great teaching game that accommodates up to 6 players, so it basically has accessibility written all over it. 71. Guild Ball. This miniature tabletop distillation of soccer football with more than a little brawling offers 2 disparate ways for you to crack an egg: goals and KOs. This is a game that conveys a real sense of camaraderie in your team and an equally rewarding sense of triumph when you use them well together. Dead now though, at least officially. 70. Blood Bowl. And in a completely unintended outcome, Guild Ball's older cousin sits higher on the list for the first time. Quite simply, the greatest theming in the history of board game. Mechanically a wee bit dated, and I forgive it for having square spaces, but nostalgia and up-to-date content equal a winner for me. 69. The Lord of the Rings, the card game. This was FFG's first stab at cramming theme and narrative into a living card game, and you know what, it contains a quite brilliant mechanical platform for telling that story through combat and encounters, with a neat resource mechanic tied to your heroes. This is getting a welcome reissue of sorts. 68. Tidal Blades, Heroes of the Reef. Stripped back to its core, this is worker placement, but it layers on a bunch of boards that each represent a different facet of the game. What you will be doing though is building and upgrading your pool of dice and taking on any number of challenges to try and put your winning jacket on. 67. The City of Kings. This is not an RPG adventure. Okay, that's only a half lie, but what it is an exercise in taking the most efficient route to your objective, both on the board and with your character's progression. This somehow comes across more puzzle-like than anything else, but despite its flaws, it still draws me in like a good un. 66. Wingspan. As avian-themed engine builders go, this is up there with the best of them. Everything runs smooth in a game of Sping-Wan. It's pretty, it's logical, it's accessible. It's all the things you want a gateway game to be, and very clearly most of the world agrees with me. This is what you call a safe bet. 65. Lords of Waterdeep. But it's clearly not as good as the granddaddy of fantasy worker placement games. Yes, the choices you can make each turn are as vanilla gets, but the quests you embark upon make for some meaningful gameplay choices, and there's still just enough going for it to age like a fine wine. Should have used that line for viticulture. Div. 64. Massive Darkness. There's so much to like about this Zombicide meets dungeon crawler caper, and the dice chucking and character progression are at the top of that list. But it's the lack of longevity and cohesion in the scenarios that stop this being way higher on the list. 63. Codex Card Time Strategy. An out-of-the-box combination of faction decks supplement a mix of traditional spell slinging and creature combat, but with base building added into the mix, and it's this genius inclusion that brings something new and exciting to an otherwise fairly tried and tested genre. Underrated, go get it if you can. 62. The Lord of the Rings, the trading card game. Nope, not the card game, the TCG. And a dead CCG absolutely ahead of its time. Innovative deck construction that sees players commanding both good and evil in the same deck, and alternating roles throughout. The best part is the more things you do on your turn, the more your opponent gets to do. Absolutely brilliant. 61. Honeybuzz. What a charming little family weight new entry to this list this is, and with a tagline of the bees have discovered economics, how can it possibly fail? Worker bee placement is the shizzle, and laying tiles is the menizzle in this game of meeting objectives and sending honey to market. Nice. 60. June Imperium. Every once in a blue moon, a game that's a movie cash-in, it sits straight out of the park. And this deck builder that sees your hand of multifunctional cards acting as fodder to place your workers in the first half of a round, and the means to then generate resources and combat strength in the second, is innovation well executed. Well played. 59. Praga Caput Regni. May have an immersive, albeit unwieldy board to play around, but it's the Rondale action selection setup that will see only certain actions available at cost neutral every turn that gets this a humming. The rest can be summarised by about 4 or 5 different approaches to building up that final points tally. 58. Valeria Card Kingdoms. This tableau builder with a twist borrows much from Machikoro, in that you're rolling 2d6 and gaining resources from each of your townsfolk that match the numbers shown on the dice. You then take said resources and go Billy Bash monsters to your heart's content. It's almost like gorging on doing fun things when this gets to the table. 57. Azul. Here, a tile drafting and pattern building game combined to make something that just teases that nod of approval out of even the most curmudgeonly. It's almost too accessible and easy to get to the table, but it achieves this without sacrificing any of its player engagement and replayability in the process. 56. Role Player. It all seems so obvious in hindsight to transpose dice placement into a role-playing character creation setting, but apparently it wasn't until this little fella came along. Honestly, everything's on point here. The dice manipulation, the interaction with race and alignment and marketplace cards all come together like hand and glove. 55. Baron Park. Polyominoes, why do you roll off the tongue so smoothly? This tile placement game sets itself apart because of the way your park of smiley grizzlies grows organically. Add to that the need to cover up symbols on your player board so you can most efficiently complete your park by game end, and you have yourself an absolute cracker. 54. Century Golem Edition. Man, this has some gorgeous artwork, but it's the resource exchange mechanism that's present on all the cards you draft and play that sees you side grading and upgrading your gems in order to achieve overall net gains. That's so addictive. Taking those resources then to gobble up points is what makes this simple game so much fun. 53. A Game of Thrones, the card game. Okay, I like card games, shoot me. What sets this living card game apart is the 3 different ways to resolve conflict. Be it military, intrigue or power, you always have to be careful not to overcommit your forces. This is a real card gamer's card game for people that like card games. Wait, what? 52. Takonoko. Lots of little mechanics such as route building and one and done action selection intertwine here to make a little gem of a game that is almost pitch perfect in teaching you a few familiar board gaming staples. The fact that it can do this and remain accessible is why I just adore this little panda themed game. And 51. Star Wars Outer Rim. There's something eminently nostalgic about this pick up and deliver and storytelling yarn that sees you picking from a number of colourful and iconic characters and making your way from planet to planet, fulfilling missions and kitting yourself out with the best ship and upgrades. Not bloody Star Trek though, is it? And that there concludes this here segment of Benji's winningest games. Be sure to check back next time as I count from 50 to 26. Alas, I've been the voice in your head and this video has ended.